Hi, valiant and intrepid viewers. How are you travelling, loves? I think of you all the time. You know, I do share your pain. We all wake up in the morning thinking maybe he's passed in the night of natural causes. But, you know, we have to rise above it and have positive thoughts. So I'm going to start first of all today with Jared Kushner, the son-in-law. Right. As one viewer pointed out, doesn't he look like Damien from The Omen, all grown up, you know? So let's just back up on Kushner, you know. So he was given the task of bringing peace to the Middle East, which he thought he could accomplish quickly, move on. Now, who did he take to have these conversations? I remember seeing an interview on some Middle Eastern station. He took a real estate developer and a divorce lawyer to negotiate these highly delicate international negotiations, you know, and the product was so ridiculous the Palestinians refused to even attend. So with that abject failure in his pocket, he went off to play with MBS, you know, who, it is alleged, has a very poor record with journalists for sure, but also started his fledgling princely career by kidnapping and extorting 100 odd of his own relations. You know, so he's a best friend. Yemen, he did nothing about Yemen. He probably doesn't even know where Yemen is. Osama bin Laden's mother comes from Yemen, and he probably doesn't even know that. And then, in the meantime, there is a feud that's broken out with Qatar. So he was also charged with the opioid crisis, which has been sort of rolled over because of the pandemic and because he was so busy not finding a road path to peace in the Middle East. Then all the Deutsche Bank stuff, and it's coming back. Deutsche Bank is coming back. They're launching an inquiry into the banker who gave loans to Kushner and the Yeti. These are big loans. I think it was in 2013, 190 million between them, and since then, hundreds of millions. These are unbelievable figures. I don't know. And now, you know, he's supposed to be in charge of a national response to the pandemic, and that's really ugly, really ugly. I'll get to that in the course of the reading. He gets the top deck, which I keep for very special and awful people. So I'd never use these for a personal reading for a normal human. So here we go with the top deck, Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner, what is going to happen to Damien? All right, we shall see. What's the river past present? All right, I've got the computer a bit higher, so hopefully you can see it. All right, in the middle, Ace of Swords. This is the sword of truth, illuminated. Absolutely illuminated. He's suddenly back in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, for those things I was just talking about. Let me share my first digression, viewers. Now it has been revealed through investigative journalists that he did start the process of having national testing, contact tracing, I meant to say, all of the normal grown-up things that were expected at the beginning, and then they pulled the plug because they thought the virus was only in democratic states. Is there anything worse than these people, you know? So the sword of truth is powering through. Underneath that, at the root of this Ace of Wands, a card of sheer raw power, and he has too much power. you know, just too much power. And what did he do with it? Well, yes, the Prince of Darkness, this is what he became. He used these eagle wings that he was given by the Yeti to do all these major portfolios and do them badly, but he was convinced he was marvellous, right? So this is the past thinking when he was given this role. The current thinking is interesting. This is the card of indolence in the Thoth deck, the card of having too much. It's almost wet with privilege and disgust. It is not a nice card. All the drawings in the Thoth deck are quite pretty in their own right, but from the past where other people may have been convinced here was the young blood, they could rein in the Yeti, they could accomplish all this stuff. Remember all that when they first got into power? This was the past. Now people think he's lazy and ineffectual. I wonder why that would be. So the atmosphere is still one of strength. He's still protected because the father-in-law is still in office. So as these things come, and there's a legal inquiry in Germany being launched as we speak onto him, he's still protected for now. The outcome. Now, we all have endlessly discussed and almost have to assume that if the Yeti refuses to go, what happens? Kushner's going to be instrumental in helping the Yeti hang on because he's actually involved in so many of the same co-conspirator court cases. This is the card of impulse, jealousy and revenge. And so he's going to actually get, I believe this, madder and badder. We've only seen little 9-year-old girl voice Kushner, and he just sort of slides slimily under the radar. He's going to come out more closer to the election and even, I suggest, beyond the election. You know, so that's no good. So let's have a quick look at his legal situation. Let me pull some cards on Kushner's legal situation in the near future. Look. Okay, let's have a look. Oh. Here is the Princess of Swords. In this case, I think it might be his beloved wife, followed by the Five of Swords, and it's the card of defeat in the Thoth deck. Defeat. Oh, good-o. Need go no further. So he is now as invested as the Yeti in all of this to save his little wee buttocks. Okay, so before I get to the stock market, I'm just going to have a quick look at the cards of Karen Bass, because it's very hard, whether as an intuitive or a psychic or whatever, to really find a cut and dried answer that used to be much more accessible. And it's because there are so many things under consideration. These things are still so undecided and they're so important. And so it is really hard to pick. As a political commentator, I'd have to say Kamala Harris is still in the mix. I'm not an enormous fan, but what does it matter what an Australian tarot reader thinks? She'd certainly be better than, you know, anything the Yeti's got. Susan Rice would have to be a contender. We can't rule out Stacey Bliss. But let me just have a quick look at Karen Bass. So this won't say whether she will or won't. It can say she won't get it, but if she gets good cards, it only means she has good cards and she's still in this active state of flux, right? So let's have a look at Karen Bass. I think she leads the Black Caucus. She's a canny player. Let's have a look at Karen Bass quickly, and then we'll go to the stock market. Karen Bass gets the Two of Cups, the Hermit, Two of Wands, strategy, Three of Cups. She is in the mix. Two of Cups, a pact or a contract. The Hermit, this is all going on behind closed doors, but I think this is saying she acquitted herself well behind closed doors. The Two of Wands, strategy or a plan, and women celebrating. So, you know what I think we have to keep in mind? Biden is actually spoiled for choice in the sense these are all very competent women. I don't think Elizabeth Warren will necessarily be VP, but what he's probably said to Karen Bass and certainly to Kamala Harris and the others, you will get real jobs in the new administration. So only one of them can be VP, but at the same time, they'll all get positions where they can use their talent and their expertise and their commitment to make things better. He will come up with a fabulous team. Okay, now the stock market everywhere has mysteriously, stayed afloat. We all know why, massive investment and printing of money and carrying on. But starting to have a wobble, I think, as the reality sinks in. So just as a point of comparison, we had 400 cases in my state yesterday, which for us is a lot. I'm in that one little nucleus. And the stage 4 lockdowns are really severe. The night curfew, I hardly go out at night, but of course I want to now. I can't, you know how it is. But you have to slam on this hard. Okay, so what is happening with the stock market? Casino capitalism and the stock market. Okay. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So justice in the middle. One of the symbols of justice is the scales, weighing things up, balancing things. So it's coming to a point where they can't pretend much longer. This isn't just the US. This is the Australian stock market, the Asian stock market, the UK stock market. They've all been propped up, and it's coming to a point. It's coming to a point where it's not sustainable. Disappointment and loss. Collectively, I think this is speaking collectively to the stock market. They're very disappointed. Things are not going to spring back in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks or any number of weeks, right? They're just not. They're beginning to realise it, right? So what does this mean? Now, sometimes in previous videos, I've been quite critical of the stock market and how it operates and stuff. And people feel a bit torn because often they've got their, what we call superannuation, your 401k tied up with the stock market and stuff. But please remember, the mom and dad investors in the stock market all together only make 10%. It's this other one of the big players. So they're worried. They're talking to each other now in a way they haven't before. This is the Page of Wands. This is a persuasive speaker. I think this is pages of messages. This is a message not to panic, just hang in. But after that, you've got the Knight of Wands. Okay, so you've got the Page of Wands, which is the junior version of the Knight of Wands. And the Knight of Wands is the cautious knight. So it's not quite the Wolf of Wall Street thing yet, because the Knight of Wands is careful. This is the cautious knight. They don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They don't want to pull the plug a minute too soon because they're all going to lose such a massive amount of money. They're being more cautious than they usually have been. However, dun, 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 here comes the death card. So it's fairly inevitable. This is near future. So I don't think that necessarily means it's going to just completely crash. I wouldn't rule that out. I'd say because this is near future, end of August, September, we're going to see a severe wobble, probably a correction. And then around the time of the election, that's going to make a vast difference. This is the king being trampled. The king has passed. National sadness. So that will actually, the election will actually determine what really happens in big boy capitalism, and I say boy because you know why. Yeah, so the election result is going to determine how much they step in behind Biden, how much they're freaked out by how the economy is going by then. Right. So you also have, of course, people still waiting for their checks. Blessings to you guys. And evictions. And it's really criminal. I mean, Australia, we're not as appalling, and we do have a better safety net. But at the same time, this has been a housing crisis in the making. Affordable housing has been a crisis everywhere. And that's because of taking over inner cities that used to be cheap housing for people too. They've been gentrified. No one normal can afford to live downtown, whether it's San Francisco or Berlin or London or Sydney, you know. So all that real estate's been scooped up and not replaced with affordable housing. So let's just have a look. My father grew up in an extremely poor Irish Catholic family, and just by reading the old documents, the death certificates, the birth certificates and stuff, they were constantly at a new address, you know, moved on. Eviction is sort of something I really feel strongly about. And it's just, so I'm going to have a quick look at eviction. Will there be something to slow down the evictions? Will the evictions be slowed down or stopped? Will the evictions be slowed down or stopped? The evictions be slowed down or stopped. I actually don't think so, in the sense, look at these cards. Look at these cards. Oh, lordy, lordy. So you've got the Seven of Wands. This is people fending off eviction. I think that's both on a personal level and the Dems who are concerned about it and so forth, fighting this off. But the devil comes in front and centre here in the form of greed. I'm not saying every landlord is greedy and heartless. That isn't true. But there's enough who aren't prepared, who are secure. Like, for example, is Jared Kushner going to say, well, if I'm allegedly this ultra successful multimillionaire, I won't turf out any of my 1,500 tenants in New Jersey because of failure to pay rent? This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what the devil is. It's superfluous greed, cruel greed. Five of Pentacles out in the cold before winter. This is a national scandal in the making. Disappointment and loss. I'm really sorry. You know, this is not what I wanted to see. So I think, let me just keep going. If there's a significant wave of public evictions and it captures the nation, there might be a second sort of attempt at stopping these evictions. Let's see. Nostalgia and justice. Oh, because I never like ending on a major downer like that. So I think that does say very literally what is happening. But the two extra cards I pulled, nostalgia, looking back to the past. Remember when most people had a place to live? Type past. And justice has come in here. So you know what this could mean, viewers, and I hope it happens in Australia too. I really do. We've got a major problem. So young people cannot afford to leave home, and we romanticize the family and we assume, oh, well, they just move into their suite downstairs with their own bathroom. No, some families cannot, haven't got the space for extra people, or don't get on enough for that to happen, and people haven't got that option. Young people are even noticeably not having children now because they're so insecure with their work and their housing. Affordable housing has to be addressed, and this homelessness crisis might force, like California. California is trying to house the homeless at a higher rate than other states and experimenting with different models. And I would like to see that in the UK, in Canada. Tell me, Canadian viewers, please tell me what you guys are doing. And Australia, we need to address this, and we're not. Right. So I'm on a roll here, and because I'm traveling tomorrow, I want to say sorry about those ads. I really hope that doesn't happen. I'm just going to have a quick look at the astrological influences happening in the next, let's say, in the next 4 weeks through August. What can we expect astrologically? I love these astro cards. Astro cards. Oops. What's happening generally in August astrologically? Oh, they're upside down, or maybe not. Yes. Sad. They're all over the place. Oh, karma. All right, so what we have, Pluto energy. Now, trust me, I am not an astrologer. I am simply saying I do know a bit about Pluto, and it's the planet that roots everything out and brings it into the light, whether you want to see it or not. And don't forget, the US in particular is coming up for a Pluto return, and that only happens every 247 years or something, meaning it goes right back to the revolution. These are revolutionary times, and we've got to remember that. And Sag, my sign, so of course I think they're perfect. No, just joking. I know better than anyone the flaws of the Sag, but it is higher learning. It is communication for the greater good. It is big picture thinking. It is social justice. So Pluto's going to unearth this stuff, which is happening with the GOP and everything else, and replacing it with new ways of thinking from the ground up. If you don't learn your Pluto lessons, either as an individual or as a family or as a nation, Pluto gets more and more extreme until you get it. So I would suggest paying attention, appealing and applying the higher good. It's better you're one of the people who are positive about this uprooting and change that is for something better, not just destruction. People misread Pluto as destruction, not misread so much, but see it as destruction. And most people find destruction of social things scary. That's understandable. But if you are going to have revolutionary change, there needs to be a really uncomfortable often ugly, really challenging transition, and we're all facing it. And it's karmic, the South Node. The South Node is where we're coming from collectively. I'm speaking as a global citizen here. What we've done in terms of not addressing climate change and all this stuff and poisoning our rivers. We've done it all the same way, and logging our forests into oblivion and ignoring the bleaching of the barrier reef. We're right up there with the best of them. So this is our karmic past coming up, and it has to be cleansed. So I'd really encourage you individually to start thinking of this as a time of purging and cleansing, not just purging and disruption and fear. There are scary things happening, but fear paralyzes. So it's absolutely important that you have really clear, strong mantras, that your support networks are in place. You know, if you're having a day where you're feeling really overwhelmed by all this, well, that would be every day, make sure you take time out. It is so important. And if you can mask up and get out in nature, do it, because it's so reaffirming. So I wish you all the very, very best. And next time you see me, it'll be in another location. So please, thumbs up, share, distribute, spread the love. Bye now. Catch you soon.